Hey everybody, welcome to the Mother Figures podcast. I'm Caitlin Darkangelo, founder and co-owner of Figure, Midwestern wife, and girl mom. I'm a dual certified pregnancy and postpartum trainer, majored in exercise science from the University of Michigan, earned my master in management degree from Duke University, and have been coaching in the fitness industry for over a decade. This podcast dives into all things pregnancy and postpartum fitness, especially in how to navigate strength and intensity training in these seasons. Whether you're in it yourself, trying to get pregnant, or coaching this population, you're in the right place. I'm excited to share personal experiences, client stories, guest interviews, and evidence-based strategies to give you the guidance, insights, and clarity needed to navigate these seasons with confidence. And with that, let's get rolling. Hello, and welcome back to the Mother Figures podcast. Today is a very special episode. I have my first guest with me, and that is our newest little addition to the family, Vienna. She is currently sleeping, and I'm hoping that she stays that way. So we'll see how this goes. But today I wanted to share our birth story with Vienna. I am almost 2 weeks postpartum. Today was actually her original due date. So she came at 38 weeks and 2 days. So we got some extra time with her already, which is exciting. But yeah, I'm just going to kind of go through our whole labor story with her. I love hearing labor and delivery stories from other moms. It's just like one of my favorite things to listen to or read. And so I wanted to kind of make my own here. So I feel like her labor or my labor story kind of begins the week prior to her coming, when I had my external cephalic version, or ECV, which is when she was breech and they manually from like the outside pushed her down, right? Essentially. I made a whole podcast on that whole procedure, but that was done at 37 weeks. And that whole next week, I was just feeling like crampy and just more sensations like in my like core and uterus and all the things. Like I just could tell that like she was not gonna last until her due date of today, which is January 6th. And so I just knew things were happening, or felt like that procedure had pushed me into closer to labor land, essentially. And so that was 37 weeks. And then on Christmas Eve, she was born Christmas Day. So that is our final destination here. But Christmas Eve morning, we always do a family workout. And so I did the workout in the morning with everybody. It was more intense, I would say, than like my workouts had been, but I didn't feel like it during. Like there was a lot of rest time, and I scaled, and it felt really good, really appropriate for my fitness level and where I was feeling. Felt totally fine during it. And then literally the whole rest of the day, I was just wiped. Like I had to like drink a ton of salts and like sit down and like had to just like, I don't know, just take deep breaths all day. Like I like totally taxed my body in a way that I was not expecting. And that was another cue to me that like, okay, so like she's getting uncomfy down there. Like my body's just not wanting to handle my normal day to day as it normally would. And so that was kind of my sign number 2 that I felt like she was going to come early, just like how my body was reacting. And so Christmas Eve, that kind of happened the whole rest of the day. My Whoop registered high stress, and I like literally for the entire day following the workout, like during the workout, it was low stress. An hour afterwards, so like 10 a.m. through the whole rest of the day, I was in like the high stress zone, and I'm never in the high stress zone. It was like a 600% increase in my high stress. So I was like, okay, my body is like not liking this. So like it's ready for something else. So anyways, Christmas morning comes along. I guess all of Christmas Eve, I was like, please do not have the baby on Christmas Eve, because if I miss Christmas morning with my 4-year-old, like the first Christmas that she's like so into it, I was gonna be devastated. So I was like, body, please just hold on until after Christmas morning. I don't care if it comes or if she comes after Christmas morning, like just I really want to enjoy Christmas morning. That's like a big thing for me. So comes along Christmas morning at around 8:30. This is when Amelia woke up, and when we started opening presents, I was sitting there on the couch and like felt like the most mild, like behind the scenes, like the most mild period cramp you could ever have, like so insignificant. And I just like felt that, and I was like, oh, just like a little bit crampy, a little bit leftover from yesterday's like high stress. Like my body's just a little crampy today. But that feeling continued to happen every 4 to 5 minutes for about 30 to 45 seconds of crampiness, and then kind of like lulled out. But again, it was so mild that like I was like, oh, these are gonna like fade out. Like these don't mean anything. So, but even so, because they were so regular and so like timed out in that 3 to 5 minutes or so, I started tracking those contractions around 9 o'clock. And within like 30 minutes, my app was like, you should pack your bags and go to the hospital because of how consistent they were. But again, they were so mild. Like I had a full breakfast and we opened all of our Christmas presents, and like it was like I could have gone my whole life just feeling those. Like they were so small. So I started tracking around 10 o'clock. So we did our presents at our house, and then we live next door to my parents. So about an hour later, around 10 o'clock, we go over to my parents and we do the gifts with my siblings and my parents over there. And same thing, the same feeling, same consistency of the contractions were happening over there. And then around like 11:30 or 11 o'clock, we had like a full French toast breakfast and eggs and all the things. And I was still like, we were feeling them. And then we still go to Anthony's parents after this. So we're like, just in case things pick up, we should probably like get a move on. And so we told my parents, we're like, I've been contracting for like an hour and a half. This is now, or 2.5 hours, I guess. So we're going to head out. We're going to go to the Dark Angelos and see what happens, and we'll keep you updated. So around 11:30, this is about 2.5 hours after I started timing things out or so. We went over there, we did gifts there, ate a little bit more. We eat a lot on Christmas, so that was delicious. I'm glad I was able to enjoy both Christmas breakfasts because that's one of my favorite meals of the whole year. So after we did that, it was now at like 1 o'clock. So what is that, like 4 hours later? We're like, okay, we should like probably go in because of how it was still so consistent. I was like, it was just the same pain level, but like of 0 pretty much, but they were there. And I was like, okay, with how fast Amelia went, like we should probably take this a little bit seriously. So we left Amelia at Anthony's parents' house and we went to the hospital. We got into triage, and this is now about 2 o'clock. And I was dilated to a 3. I was 80% effaced and at a -1 position. This is Thursday. On Tuesday, so 2 days prior, was my 38-week appointment, and they had me dilated to like a 1.5, 70% effaced, and like a plus or a -2. So something was a little bit happening. But I'm glad I got checked. I was just more so curious at the 38-week. I know a lot of time, like you can't really use that as data because it could go really fast from there or it could sit like that for weeks. But that was my starting point on Tuesday. 2 days later, now they checked me around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm at a 3, 80%. So I'm like, okay, something's happening. Like these contractions are meaningful. And then because of how fast Amelia came, they were like, we're going to keep your triage room available. You go walk around the hospital for about 1 to 2 hours, come back and we'll check you again and we'll kind of go from there. So We left the room. We came back at about 4:45, and when they checked me then, I was at a 4 to 5 dilation. And so that was sign that like, okay, these are real. At that point, I could still like walk through my contractions. Everything was like very smooth and felt good. And so that was a positive that I was able to kind of get to that point already without feeling any pains. So when we got back up to or after we got the news that I was at a 4 to 5, my midwife was like, I'm going to have you go to dinner, because if I send you back into labor and delivery right now, the nurses are going to get antsy and want to start trying to put you on Pitocin and try to speed things up. But I don't want you to have to be like in this medical setting if you want to try to go as natural as possible. So like, I'm going to tell you to leave and come back, which I was really, really thankful for. Obviously, I loved the nurse that we had on staff, but she was kind of pushing for Pitocin or more medical based things when we did get back there. So I'm just really thankful for the midwife's guidance of like, she was like, I'm not in any rush to push your body further. Like, it's going to do its thing. It's already doing its thing. So go get well fed and like come back and we'll put you right into labor and delivery after you guys go eat. So again, this is Christmas Day, so nothing is open. So we go to this Chinese food, which is like hilarious because you see all these movies that will like, they go to Chinese on Christmas, and we just were cracking up that this was like a reality now. And so we went back, got Chinese food, came back at about 6:00, went right to labor and delivery at this point. So they let us bypass triage, which was nice, and have to go through that whole process again. And then when we got back there, I had 20 minutes that they had to monitor baby's vitals and all that stuff with the little not trackers, those little circle things that they put on your belly. And so I was just kind of laying there. It was about at 6:00 where I started needing a little bit more support through the contractions. Not a ton. Like, I was able to talk through them and like laugh through them. But I had these like spike balls, and I posted this on my Instagram at one point. They're like little balls that you hold in your hands that have spikes. That's like acupressure essentially. And it also just gives you something to like hold on to during contractions. These came in huge handy when like contractions actually started to get painful. But one of my birth plans going into this labor was, if I have something that can take some pain away, like, I'm going to just use every tool in my toolbox just to make the pain less. Because with Amelia, I came out of that being like, that was the worst thing ever. That was so painful. It was super smooth, it was a great labor and delivery. But my whole thing was like, I want more pain support. So around 6:00, I started using the spike balls, even though I was still able to like talk through them and just like be a civil, normal human during them. So I started using those. And then when this is the time frame that it kind of gets a little, I kind of forget exactly what time they had rechecked me at. But when I got back, I think it was around 6:00, they checked me and I was at a 6 to 7 already dilated at this time. So that was really exciting. And then from like 6 to 8:00, I have some timestamps of pictures in my camera roll that kind of brings me back to what was happening around this time. But around that time, I was bouncing on the birth ball in the room. We were watching Harry Potter. It was Christmas Day, so they had that whole Harry Potter marathon. And if you know me, I am a huge Harry Potter geek. So that was exciting that we could just like watch that while I was bouncing around on my ball. I also did one of my Figure pregnancy app workouts on the bed in the hospital labor and delivery room. So I did the warm up, I did the labor prep, and the stretch for about 25 minutes of just like letting my pelvic floor relax. And I was very determined to have a similar outcome of like no tearing, really smooth delivery. So I was like, I'm going to get on my app and I'm going to do all the things. And so I did that for about 25 minutes. And then it was right after I was done with my workout or my app that the midwife came in and she is a spinning babies instructor and also a massage therapist. So I like totally lucked out with the lady who was on call for me. But so from 8 till about 10:45, she had me doing, I think it was around 8. It could have been like 8:39. Again, I wasn't as aware of time at this point. She had me do like a whole spinning baby circuit. So she had me in a child's pose for half an hour, literally on the bed, just laid there in child's pose. And then also had me doing like the side lying release where I had like my top leg rolled over. I was on my side. And she was like massaging my like piriformis and glutes and low back and just trying to create space. And then she also had me, I think it was called like reverse cowgirl or something, where you have a peanut ball in between your legs and then your legs kind of come behind you. And so you're arched forward to give space to like the front hip flexors. I think it was the point of the position, but I held each of those for about half an hour. And so during this time when I'm holding these positions, that's kind of when contractions started to become a little bit more noisy in my brain. Like I wasn't able to really talk to Anthony during them. They were still like when they would start coming, I would be like, hang on a second, contractions coming. I would like just kind of chill out for a few seconds in that position and then be like, okay, it's all better now. Like we can talk now. So they started to get a little bit more intense, but they also started to spread out a little bit. Like they were every like, I don't know, 6 to 7 minutes ish. Like they were not as consistent, and that kind of made me worried. I was like, okay, I cannot stall out at this point. I'm in active labor, but this is like the thoughts that were like going through my brain. I'm like, if they like send me home or like if this baby like takes forever. And I was like, oh my gosh, maybe this is going to be like a long labor. Like who knows? So yes, they did get more intense, but they were spreading out a little bit. And so I don't know. Also when I was laying on the side, the cowgirl positions, I think they were, I opted to use a TENS unit on my low back. So they put like little patches on you. And then it's like a stim machine. So it kind of gives you like little sparks, which they use for like therapies, but it's also kind of a pain relief for like, it just felt good on my back. And again, it went back to my whole labor plan of just wanting to use stuff even before I hit my pain threshold, just to make the whole thing more enjoyable of an experience. So I did like that. It wasn't like the most pain relief ever, but it was enough and it was fine. I would probably use it again, but it wasn't like super, great either way. So this was all happening overall from 6 to 10:45, so about almost 5 hours. Contractions were still very manageable, very doable. Was able to kind of go through my day-to-day stuff, was able to talk. Things were progressing, but we were kind of just like in the hospital room, like trying to just do things to make things move along. So at 10:45, they kept saying like, we can break your water, make things go faster. And I kind of wanted to have more of a lead up or progression into the pain of labor. I didn't want to go from like these mild, super light little cramps to like full 10 out of 10 crazy labor. So I was like, I'll just let my body like kind of flow through it. But then, so at 10:45, I remember going to the bathroom. I had like a contraction while I was in the bathroom, and I was like, okay, like these are getting to the point where I'm going to have to get into the tub or like do something more than just like using these labor balls and TENS unit. So when I came back out of the bathroom, I was like, all right, let's like just check me. And then based on that, like, we'll see if I want my water to be broken. So they checked me again at 10:45 and I was still at a 6 to 7. And I was like, oh boy, this stinks because the pain had definitely increased over that few hour period. But obviously I had no like dilation improvement. So I was like, all right, well, I'm at the point now from a pain perspective that I'm like ready to get my water broke. With Amelia, the same thing kind of happened where I was in the shower and they asked me if I wanted my water to break. And I got out and like my water had already broken, but I could tell from like the intensity of it that when my water breaks, like the shit's going real, right? Like it's go time at that point. So that's why I was kind of like a little bit hesitant, because I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready for you. But then I was like, you know what, screw it. So 10:45, I was at a 6 to 7 dilation, and then I had her break my water, which was interesting because with Amelia, my water broke in the shower. This time I was on the bed when they broke my water. And so it was like kind of weird, like feeling the water break like on you, but that's kind of gross. It actually wasn't gross. It was just like felt like water, obviously. But like immediately my body went into like, oh crap, like we are in labor. So I went into like an all fours position over top the peanut ball. So I was kind of like laying, like my chest and arms were laying over the ball. And I was just kind of like letting the contractions come in. At this point is when I started the nitrous gas, or the laughing gas. And from my ECV procedure at 37 weeks, I knew that this was going to be my like primary pain relief go-to. I was hoping to not use an epidural because, or just like in general. And then this was going to be like my first stop. If I needed an epidural, I was going to allow myself to take that, again, because I wanted just to have a more painless or more manageable pain throughout it. But so I started on the laughing gas at this point, and thank goodness I had it. So I was kind of leaned over the ball for this. At this point in time, I kind of forget all time. This is like when I went into labor land, essentially. So I was on that ball for like maybe 20 minutes, I would say. And then I had the bed incline and kind of like rose up, I guess, on my knees, and was holding onto the back of the bed for a little bit of time. Just because that leaned over position started to get uncomfortable. Like I felt like I needed to like be outstretched or higher up, like when the contractions were coming. But like I really relied on the gas at this time. Like it started to get so severe, and I like really, really needed it. Things kept progressing. And I just kind of like, this is the intense piece of labor. There's not really like words to describe it. For me, it's like a full body kind of pain situation. I don't feel a lot of pressure. I know a lot of women like describe it as just a lot of pressure. I feel it as like really, really intense period pains that like take up your whole like ab area. I don't feel a lot of back pain either. I feel it mostly in the front. But during this time, also on top of the gas, I was still holding on to the balls, and that helped because I could like squeeze onto something physically. And then I think the acupressure pieces, like the spikes of the ball themselves, did help too. But I just liked having something to like grab onto and squeeze. My midwife also had taught Anthony how to do the hip compressions. So he was doing the hip compressions on me. I had the gas mask, and I had the gas mask sounds like so illegal or something. I don't know. It sounds weird to say it. And then the spike balls. And so I was in the all fours position and then on the bed. And then at one point around this time, I asked for the epidural, and they were filling up the tub at this point too. I asked because I was in a lot of pain, and I was like, if I'm still at a 6 or 7 and this is the pain that I'm going through, I'm not going to be able to last till like 10. But I guess Ashley, who's my midwife, looked at Anthony and was like, she's not getting the epidural. Like, she's almost there. Like, we're just going to make her pretend like she's going to get something. So they kept like filling the tub, but like knowing that I wasn't actually going to make it into the tub. And I knew too at the point when I was asking for the epidural, I was like, I know I'm like so close, but like I just like wanted her to check me so, to just get like, when you don't know the finish line, like you don't know how long it's going to take. You're like, I don't know how much like pain I can endure still. And so that was kind of the mindset I was in. If I knew I only had 10 minutes left from that point in time, obviously I wouldn't be asking for it because I couldn't get it anyways. But that's just kind of where your mind goes. I was like, let me just see if like what they say. So I guess they were all laughing at me behind the scenes and tricking me into thinking that I was going to get stuff that I wasn't.
But I also knew at that point that like I wasn't going to be able to get into the tub because they don't do deliveries in the tub where I deliver at. They just do like, the labor, and then they get you out of the tub and birth on the bed. So knowing that, I was like in transition. My midwife had me actually stand up and raise the bed. So I was like kind of standing with my arms over the bed at this point. And it was at that time that in one of my contractions, at the very end of that contraction, I felt like that slight urge to push, like my body had that like reflex. And so I was like, okay, I know I'm close now. Like at least that gave me a sign that like I was right there. I say this all like very nonchalantly, but this is like when pain was like through the roof. I was like relying heavily on this gas mask. I was like trying to breathe in as much as I could. I guess they were all making fun of me too, because like there were certain contractions, like you have to start breathing into the mask before the height of the contraction comes, because it takes like 20-30 seconds for the effects of it to kick in. And so when I like would slightly feel anything, I would start breathing really heavily into it, even though my contraction pain hadn't started yet. And so that made it seem like I was just like using the mask the whole time. But I was like, no, you have to like, I just wanted to have the pain relief before the pain got there. And again, it's not, I try to talk about this a little bit in my ECV episode, but the mask or the nitrous doesn't take the pain away, but it takes it kind of loopifies, makes your brain loopy enough to take some mental sting out of it. So I was still able to feel everything. I still felt all the stuff. But I was able to stay more aware during it, or more involved, versus when I was with Amelia, I had zero pain relief options of any kind. I was just kind of there, blank on the table, on the bed, just like in pain, not really knowing where things were happening. But so this helped me really stay in tune with my body a lot better. So anyways, I was standing up at this time, had that first little urge to push. The next contraction was like really strong and had really strong urges to push. And they're like, okay, we need to get you on the table right now. And I remember it was either that one or the next one where I was like, I can feel her head, like her head is right there. And Anthony afterwards was like, yeah, you were yelling at us like that her head was there. I was like, no, I was just trying to like confirm or like have somebody tell me like, yep, we see her head. Like I didn't want to like be feeling that and like have that not be the case and like have so much more to go. Like I wanted that confirmation of like, yep, her head's right there. But then the next contraction came like really soon after that. Like the waves just kept crashing. Like at that point, like there wasn't, the full 3 to 5 minutes in between them. And the next one I could, because of the mask, I think, and because I was on all fours on the bed, I could physically like feel her head come out, and then the neck was kind of there. And then the next push, I pushed her shoulders out and the whole body came out, and they kind of handed me underneath. And then she was born. So there was just like a crazy, like because of the pain relief of the mask, I was able to like fully feel each piece of the delivery, which I was really happy about. Like I remember after Amelia, I remember thinking like that was like the worst thing ever. Like I'm never going into labor again. I'm never having more kids. And then immediately after this delivery, I was like, wow, like I could have done that again. Like that was actually really cool. And like I had that feeling that I was really hoping for. So I was really happy with my choices and all the things. So all in all, my water broke at 10:45 and then she came at 11:45. So that whole thing took just an hour. I only pushed for 5 minutes and I had about 3 total pushes before she came out. And so I was really happy about that. With Amelia, I had about 30 minutes of pushing. So still really good, but this time I could feel the effectiveness of those pushes and just everything was like way smoother. So although the whole thing, like I started having my first contraction at like 8:30 in the morning, I would kind of consider my labor for this time around to really be just that last hour, like maybe a little bit, maybe from like 9 o'clock when like I was in those positions and had to stop like talking during my contractions. But like the height of labor where I was like really in it was just like that 1 hour, and then I had that 5 minutes of pushing afterwards. So that was like my best birth scenario. Like I was so thankful for it, and she was awesome. She never had any like decelerations or issues. She came out, was great. She actually like latched within like 15 minutes of being born. So that was all really great. And so that was kind of like the whole labor piece. I also like feel like after Amelia was born, I didn't get that like, oh, that like huge relief. I still felt a lot of like pelvic floor like pressure and pain, and like just like contraction stuff, and then all of the fundal massages hurt really bad. But with her, I felt that immediate relief like right when she had come out. And so that was a really cool feeling also. um I do remember with Amelia too, I was like shaking a lot after labor, which is like a normal, just like bodily response. But with her, with Vienna, I was like shaking during labor. Like I felt like I was super cold, but like it was kind of just like a full body shake feeling. So that was another piece of it. And then I'm just trying to read my notes of like things that I forgot or that are kind of aside the point of my labor story. But I guess right afterwards, this is around midnight now. So I guess 11:45. This was on Christmas Day. The whole funny part about this whole thing was because I started like contracting the morning. It was Christmas Day. I had gotten through all of the morning celebrations that I was hoping to get through. At that point, I was like, we are having this child on Christmas, because Amelia was born on 11/25 on Thanksgiving Day. 25 is my lucky number. And so at that point, it was 12/25, and it was 10:45 when they broke my water, because we're like, we're having this baby on Christmas. And so throughout my whole labor from 10:45 to 11:45 when she was born, Anthony was giving me like countdowns, like you have 51 minutes to go or 32 minutes to go. Like I remember those two times frames like really specifically, because the whole labor team was like on our side to get this baby out by Christmas. So, or before Christmas ended, really. So 11:45, we were all like cheering that like we had gotten her out on Christmas Day. And so that was kind of a fun celebration on top of it all. So I guess also right when she was born, we did do a delayed cord clamping. So the protocol is generally like after a minute, and then they'll cut it. I asked her like what are other options, just out of curiosity, and she said, I forget the other one, but the one that I chose was you can wait until the cord goes white, so it's a little bit longer than that 1 minute to allow all of the nutrients to kind of get into the baby. So we opted for waiting until the cord was white, which I think was about 5 minutes or so. Anthony cut the cord, and then she kind of like laid on my chest and had that skin to skin for an hour. Like I said, she latched within like 10 to 20 minutes or so. She was super calm and quiet when she came out. Like they patted her on the back. She like made a little squeak and was fine. And then she was just kind of chill. So it was just a really nice like ending to all of that. And we just kind of hung out and chilled, and she, barely cried except for when she was like slightly hungry for the next like 24 hours. And so she's been awesome. So the ending piece of this, that was like the labor part. And then like kind of the rest of the 24 hours or so, 2 hours later, they moved us into the postpartum room. So this is now like 2 a.m. There was no like extra bleeding, so they weren't worried about hemorrhaging. I didn't tear, so I didn't have to get stitched up or anything. And I felt way less like pressure, pain, soreness than I did with Amelia, like almost immediately. Like I could tell when I was pushing her out that like I didn't tear. Like I could feel the effectiveness of like her positioning, and like my pushes, that like I just knew my pelvic floor was going to be in a good state, which I was really thankful for. Like I don't want to get too into detail, but I guess anybody who's probably listening to this is in the mom life, or like not a dude pretty much, but like my first like pee like didn't barely sting, and I was only had to have like a day worth of like ice packs, just things that like I was really aware of the first time around. Like this time around, I like felt really good already in that first 24 hours. And so that was like really cool that I was already feeling those effects. I'm now 2 weeks, almost 2 weeks postpartum. So I plan to do like a full like 1-2 weeks, like kind of what life has looked like, what fitness has looked like, what recovery has looked like in these past 2 weeks, but wanted to keep this episode exclusively for the labor and delivery story side of things. So that was that. And from here, I'm just kind of excited to bring you guys along with the postpartum side of things. Obviously, I've been talking a lot about the pregnancy side because that's what's been relevant in my life up to this point. But now with like the labor and delivery going so well, I'm just really excited to now kind of dive into the postpartum recovery part of things. So with that is our labor and delivery story with Miss Vienna, and I will see you guys on the next episode.
Thanks for tuning in to the Mother Figures podcast. If these episodes help or resonate with you in any way, it would be so helpful to the show if you could leave a review so we can get this into more moms' hands. And if you're looking for even more guidance and direction when it comes to pregnancy and postpartum fitness, I got you covered. My Mother Figures app subscription includes my Figure Pregnancy and Figure Postpartum workout programs, in addition to our general fitness programs. You'll get the day-by-day workouts you need to help you feel strong, pain-free, and labor-ready during pregnancy, and also the recovery, strength, and progressions you'll need to get back to the activities you love, full of strength and without symptoms after baby arrives. If you're local to the Brighton, Michigan area, I also host daily women's functional fitness classes, a 6-week postpartum return to fitness course, and pregnancy and postpartum consultation sessions. For those who are providers, coaches, or practitioners in the space, I hold a live Mother Figures certification course that equips you with the knowledge, tools, and confidence to train and work with this population. For information on all of these services and programs, make sure to check out fitisgettingreal.com/moms or head to the show notes for the direct link. I'm so thankful that you tuned in to today's episode, and I will catch you next time.